Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new FlyRank internship session. Today, this is a guest session from our past colleague, Alessandro. We used to work together in Shop Circle, amazing engineer. He maintained one of the most organized projects, most organized code bases in the company. So I'm super glad that he's here. And today he is going to talk more about Web3. So he switched fields from backend programming to something new, something interesting, Web3, decentralized systems, crypto. So all the fundamentals, everything he will be covering today. And yeah, I'm happy to listen and hope you guys are as well. So I'm going to pass everything to him. And yeah, thank you, Alessandro.
Cheers. Nice. Hello, everyone. Oh, no, I don't want to go to the next one. Hello, everyone. So thank you, Harry, for the introduction, and thank you so much, FlyRank, for having me. It's a real pleasure to meet all of you. There's so many. And since when Alan did a LinkedIn post, I got flooded of love and so many questions, and so many people just reached out and say, hey, I would like to know about this, this, and that. So it was awesome. Sorry if I did not reply everyone. I think I did, but I have checked again. So if I did not reply to you on private on LinkedIn, just feel free to reach out again, and I would be so happy to go through what you cared most. I have 2 hours, and I have one real question that I want to answer to you. What's in it for you? Like, how can you learn about stuff? So just a really small slide about myself. I'm Alessandro. I am in Web3, and I usually say GM to people. So GM is the shortcut for good morning in crypto, which is one of the so many acronyms and slang you will hear. So one of the biggest barrier of Web3 is always slang. It takes so much time to understand. In my day job, I'm the CTO of Kin Labs. You will not find anything about that online because on crypto, you are anonymous. So I have a presence online. I have a Twitter account. I have a nickname. And everybody on crypto knows me by that nickname. And you know me by my real person. It's really hard to match because, as we see, the responsibility in crypto is on me. I am the bank. I have the security of the bank. So that's really important from a security point of view to have an anonymous and do not tell everybody who you are. Unless you are a guru or one of those Dubai people selling stuff, then you can say people, but then, yeah, that's a problem. I have been losing money on chain since 2016. So this deck is mostly a collection of my mistakes so that you don't have to do them again. And it's exactly what I want people to tell me the day I started looking into Shiba Inu. Why Shiba? Shiba was my first coin that I purchased in 2016. And was my only profitable one. No, that's not true. I did some profit, but I also did quite a lot of losses. And I did a very good profit on Shiba, the token, and I sold it and I bought a dog, and it's a Shiba Inu, and her name is Shiba as well. That's not like peak creativity. My wife really makes fun of me about that, but I think it's a real start, and I love the dog per se, but also for what she means. So every slide today is about answering one question. What is in it for me as an intern and about to start my working life? If there's so of course this slide is like a condensation of 24 hours of lessons that I did at university here in Italy. So of course I will not go too deep technically or mathematically or theorem speaking, but I will try to teach you everything I can, and especially give you a way to know more if you want. You will learn. You will learn just enough to judge whether this tech helps you, can help your employer, or if you already use it in your daily life. Because I know that so many people of you already have some apps that move money and they settle on chain, and you don't know that. Because chain is exactly like infrastructure, like AWS. It's no more like blockchain as a most shining thing. It's a piece of infrastructure. It's a very expensive database, but we'll talk about that more. We will talk about what actually happens under the hood, but without going too deep into math and code and all that stuff. And why the verifiability is one of the most important things on chain, so much more than decentralization, like distinguished from hype to actual use. The vocabulary is so big. It takes so much time to get used to everything, but I mean, you get there. And I will try to teach you how to not get scammed in 0.1 seconds. Scammers are out there so much more. And I will try to help you to show you how to defend. And I will also leave you, there will be some slides, every 10, 15 slides. There's a slide where it's like, did you get the gist of what I said? 3 questions, ABC, you can just answer in your mind, post them here, or just reach out if you don't know anything. If you do not understand something, just feel free to ask questions. I am trying to read the chat at the same time, so I will try. Of course, if it gets too much, it's impossible. And then I will also leave you with a simple homework that you can finish tonight for free. I really would like to have feedback from you. If you can reach out via FlyRank, Harris will just forward, or directly on LinkedIn. If you like something, if you didn't like something, if you find something really boring, just feel free to let me know. This is like my deck that I'm trying to go around and show people. So every feedback is really appreciated. What you will not learn, it's also important. You will not learn how to get rich by Friday. And when Lambo is one of the most important, most fundamental thing you have to know. On Twitter, or X, but when somebody talks about launching a crypto project, one of the most used comments is when Lambo. So when will you be able to buy a Lamborghini? Because that's what used to happen. You used to get rich overnight. It's not 2020 anymore, so things have changed. I will not teach you about trading. I will not teach you about signals. I will not teach you about how to buy the next Fibonacci thing, the curve, the candles. No, I will not say anything about which coin to buy. This is not financial advice. Please don't hold me accountable for that. I will not teach you how to build a Ponzi scheme and something that just rugs people and make this reputations industry worse, because it's already so bad because so many scams are out there. But the chain below is so great. So you will not need to spend any euro. You will need to spend some brain power. In the next 2 hours, I hope we will go through the why, what's the trust problem, and the what we want to learn. How, what are blocks, transaction keys, consensus, staking, blah, blah, blah. The programmability, smart contracts, the standards. And then we'll try to answer what's in it for me, like stablecoins, DeFi, jobs, honest risks, and then a little bit of homework. I really don't know if we can make it in 2 hours. If we can go a little bit further, it's probably going to like 15 minutes more, probably. House rules. Of course, this was done by AI. I haven't mentioned AI yet, but all this presentation was taken and done by AI. I will have a bunch of notes like that. I ask an AI what blockchain is to someone that doesn't know. Use AI to understand. But my goal today is to show you just enough to be dangerous and just enough to know the basis. So there will be words that you don't know. If you don't know what a scam, what a rag, what an OG is, just ask. Just write it down and ask, and I will try to reply, or just ask Gemini in the meantime. It's okay to get lost. It's completely expected to just miss some parts. When I started studying blockchain, I had to go through the book I read 4 times because you just get lost, especially if you go into the math. Stay skeptical. It's a liar place, but the great stuff is that you can actually verify if somebody's lying or not. So it's okay to get scammed. It's okay to lose some money at some point. It's just part of the game, but it will get easier slowly. And then, ask an AI. It's just the best way to learn stuff. Why does any of this exist? What's the problem? Alice, which is somebody random, wants to send 10 euros, dollars, yen, whatever you want to Bob. 10 pounds to Bob. She can open PayPal, Satispay, Venmo, whatever. Her bank, she taps send. She has no money on her balance, and then Bob all of a sudden has money. But what actually happens under the hood? There's so many steps. Like, how many people have to say yes? Who holds the money in between, like during the transfer? How many databases and places have to agree that something happened? And how long is it irreversible? Like, how long until it's irreversible? How do I check that it actually happened? Me as a person that is observing, can I check? No. Me as like the legislator, can I check? Yes, sometimes, somewhere. What actually happens is that nothing moves. There's no money movement. There is not the $10 flow, like the coin flying somewhere. It's just a series of private databases that update their own records and then agree with each other. So there's an app, there's a bank, there is a clearing network, there's a Bob bank, Bob's app. The settlement can take days. The screen says send instantly, but it's what we call the optimistic UX. So we say it's probably going to work, but maybe we don't know. There's a big cost, especially sending abroad. Like there's a 6.36% globally, if up to 15% going through a bank. There are like the quotes here. And it could be reversible for weeks, because if both banks and all the clearing network agrees that that was a scam, a fraud, that just goes back. And any node can say no. Each of these companies can block for some reason. I've seen lately, like all the problems in Revolut banking, so many people are being held, like it's impossible to reach to their money right now, which is a problem. Now you can break it, right? There's a safe payment for question, and every one of them has happened to real people this year. Servers go down, okay, the money's there, but it's unreachable. On a Friday night, of course, there's a lot of stuff that can prevent servers to go down, but blah, blah, blah. They could get hacked, or somebody can decide they want to change the rules. I don't know where you live, but in Italy, the legislator can actually decide that they can get $100 from each bank account at any time. Of course, they don't do it freely. They never did it so far, but they can. And what if Alice sends 10 million? And then suddenly the $10 become 10 million. There are humans, forms, phone calls, checks here and there. And it's a lot about what kind of money are you sending. And of course, none of these are hypothetical, and none of them is thinking about somebody behaving badly. And it's just the infrastructure cost is a lot to send some money. Send $10 seems easy, but it's not. Why? Because we live in a trusted world. Payments are just the easiest example, but you do trust so many people every day without even thinking. Of course, your bank, that you trust that your balance is there and you can withdraw that at some point. But we already saw so many places where withdrawal were frozen. You cannot do that. It's like in this geopolitical instability world, that's a thing. The land registry that the piece of land you're staying is actually yours. Or Amazon reviews where the 5 stars are written by humans and not by bot. Of course, now it doesn't happen anymore, just AI. Your insurer to actually pay you when you claim on something. Your broker that you tell them buy 10 shares of S&P in my local bank, that they actually bought the S&P and not some kind of derivative of something, or they just took the money and say like, hey, yes, you have them, and then at some point they will buy. FTX, anyone? And then your university, that your degree is still valid from 10 years on, and everybody can check on that. Apple, Steam, Spotify, that the media you pay stays accessible. Or Google Drive, AWS, Azure, blah, blah, blah. Your files have to be private. You just trust them, right? So this so much need of trust required the world to invent ways to assert that somebody can be trusted. Laws, for example, but of course, interpretation, jurisdiction, 5-year queue, they're so behind because it takes so much time. Licenses, certification, but who certifies the certifier? Then we started like saying, hey, this is open source, I can trust that. Actually, open source and masking code and stuff like that, it's easy. SLAs, service level agreements. Of course, it's nice to have the 20% of your ticket, the train ticket back, but you miss your very important meeting. Then we have audits, ISO certification, ISO 9001, 9011, blah, blah. Super expensive, but again, who audits the auditor? And then we started building entry barriers so that only the most trusted banks can actually be banks. Because if you want to be a bank, you need to have at least $10 million as a capital. You have to have an insurance for blah, 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 right? So it's a stacked level of trusting. Intermediates, brokers, access logs, alerts, something is wrong. But something is wrong, I would like to know first. I would like by design that something cannot go wrong. What if trust was not required? You do not need, it's not like trust nobody, but make something so that, make a system so that you don't actually need to trust anyone. What are the things you need to search for when you want to build something that does not require trust? Must be verifiable, so everybody can actually inspect the truth, inspect that Alice has $10. You cannot do that on a normal bank. Data is actually public, not just the source code, but what's inside is actually public. It's just not a published report, a screenshot of a certain moment, but you can check at any time the real-time state. And then about security, it's about math, about how to be, cryptographically speaking, safe, and not just paperwork. Decentralization, so nobody can say it's off. You cannot do that. It's immutable. So history does not move. You cannot say, hey, Alice used to have $10, but now I changed my mind. She does not have $10. If she sent $10 to Bob and then has to revert, then it must be Bob sending back $10 to Alice, so that everything is trackable and immutable. And it must be programmable so that developers can build automations on top. It's a lot. I understand. It's very in the cloud so far, but we will get back to her. But the point is that in a trustless system, we do not remove the trust. We just make it unnecessary. Okay? That's the very single thing that is the base of chain. The problem that we have to solve before jumping into chain is the double spending problem. In everything before this on 2009 failed on this. So if I have a coin that is $1 and I give it to Harris, for example, then I do not have it. I cannot spend it again. Harris can now go and spend that dollar and buy a coffee, right? When we talk about digital, it's a record in a DB. So I give $1 to Harris, then I must not be able to spend it. And Harris has to be able to spend. Because if we both are able to spend it at the same time, it's called the race condition. It's called something that must not happen, because otherwise we just multiply money. And then it doesn't work because somebody's going to lose money somewhere. And that's a scam. That's a fraud, right? Of course, physical, easy, digital, a bit more difficult. How do we answer to that right now? A bank keeps one authoritative list, and it's the single point of trust we have just described. See that everything is coming back? This is one of the slides. Did you get the gist? So when your bank says send, what's actually happening? The money moved, a promise, or transaction became irreversible, or nothing. It's just a rendering bug. Just think, you don't need to write anything. Trustless means that nobody in the system can be trusted, or trusting any specific party is unnecessary, or the system has no security, or that only trusted validator may join. And then the double spending problem is hard because computers are slow, or digital data can be copied perfectly and for free. Cryptography was not invented yet, or banks refuse to cooperate. That should be pretty easy, I hope. These are the answers. So when your app says send, it was actually a promise that they will try the best to actually send the money. Settlements happen later. UI is instant, optimistic UX, interbank settlements 1-3 days. Trusted means that trusting any specific party is not necessary because everybody can verify. And double spending is hard because digital data can be copied perfectly and for free. So far, so good? Yes, no questions? Great. And less than 20 minutes, great. What the blockchain actually is. There's a lot of words here. This is going to be slightly boring, but hold tight, we'll get there. We'll talk about blocks, keys, consensus, what are the mechanics behind. So what's the history of digital cash or blockchain? In 2008, one guy called Satoshi Nakamoto came out with a paper on the day of Halloween. He wrote 9 pages and he solved for the first time in history the double spending with no authority. What Satoshi did is to take stuff that was already present, like the Byzantine general problem or the distributed layer systems and a couple of things, and he just put them together. It's the analogy I always do is the coronavirus vaccines, like the mRNA. Stuff that was already existing, but then patched together in a new way that does not exist. Satoshi there's a big history and mystery about Satoshi. You can check on the actual Bitcoin chain his address. You can actually check how much money he still has. There are several theories about who is Satoshi. Somebody says he's a person, he's dead. Somebody said it was an organization and they just decided to destroy the private keys so that they cannot withdraw the Bitcoins. They say somebody says it's dead. It's a mystery. Nobody knows. So many people claimed I'm Satoshi, and then nobody ever really proved it. But fast forward in 2010, 2 pizzas. So one guy paid 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas. It was the first real word. He posted on a forum and says, I will give 10,000 BTC to anyone who brings me 2 pizzas. And then actually it happened. 10,000 Bitcoins today at $65,000. It's a lot of money. And then Bitcoin stayed for some time. In 2015 came Ethereum. Vitalik Buterin is the founder of Ethereum. He understood that he needed a chain where programmability was a thing, a Turing complete language for the developers among you. So this chain can now deploy and run arbitrary code, not just payments, insurance, and all the stuff. Bitcoin, the Bitcoin network does not have a Turing complete system. Ethereum has. Fast forward, the ICO season, everybody was so hyped, so many people lost so much money, and then we came to 2022, the merge. So Ethereum drops the mining. What is mining? It's the action of finding a number, 2 numbers multiplied to do another number. That's mining. We will talk about that later. But the energy use of Ethereum just dropped from less than 99.95% with 0 downtime. It was an awesome day if you were into crypto. Then we have like the EIP, Ethereum Improvement Proposal 4844, to have L2s, because one thing that you need to know is that you have L1s, which is the main blockchain, and then you have a blockchain on top that just settles on the first blockchain. And that's how we started saving a lot of money as users and developers. And regulations. The US Genius Act was signed, the EU MiCA properly. For those of you who are in Europe, we're using Binance, and Binance at some point in July said, hey, we cannot operate anymore. We are trying to find a solution. That's the MiCA. And in 2026, we actually have Stripe, one of the leader in global payments, have its own chain. Visa already settles all the settlement history we talked about in the previous slides. They are already set in 9 different chains. BlackRock runs over $2.7 billion just on chain. Robinhood a few weeks ago launched his own chain to trade real-world assets. The interesting part is that the right side, from here to here, was all an experiment. Finally, the big guys are coming. What's very easy to spot when you work on the inside is that here the hype was about chains, ICOs, meme coins, and all that stuff. On the left side, I don't know if you see my mouse, but on the left side, we had a lot of hype about the technology. Right now, we understood that blockchains are just expensive databases that require a lot of energy to update, and that you can write really, really small things inside. And they just went down to infrastructure. And what you actually build on top of that infrastructure, it's a parallel of a database, right? Then, okay, thank you. You cannot see the mouse. So on the left side, from 2008 to 2022 was the hype side. The right part is where we understood that chain is a piece of the infrastructure. Facebook and Instagram or TikTok does not come to you and say, hey, we are hosted on EC2 on some different servers. They just say, hey, TikTok is the app that lets you watch videos. And the same thing is crypto stuff. Back in the days used to say, we are the most decentralized, we are the most, I don't know, like the hype was on the tech. Right now, the hype is on the users and the use cases, which is something that as an industry, we have to work on. If you want to do a parallel with AI, it's not about how the single model was trained, but what you can get from that model. That's the change. Chain. I've been talking about the chain, but why do I use the word chain? Because each block contains a fingerprint, a hash, a connection to the block before that. So you do one block, then you do one other block that references the previous one. Then you do another block that references the previous one. Then another one. That's, if you think about that, it's a chain, right? And I'm Italian, so I speak with hands. Yes. But you see, the idea is that you have the block n-1, you have the connection to the previous one, you have the number of transactions inside, we'll talk about that soon, and then you have your own hash. This hash, you see, 0x4c9e, this is the same. Then you have your own hash. The n+1 references the previous one. Why hash? Without going too technical, a hash is an algorithm that from a source, as long as you want, creates one small fixed length string. And if you change something on the previous file, then the string changes completely. It's super easy to calculate from the original file to the hash. It's extremely easy. From the hash to go back to the file, it's actually impossible, right? So if you change something inside the previous block, the hash of the block changes, and then this block does not reference anything, right? So imagine going for block 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 200, and then somebody wants to change something to block 2, they have to recalculate everything from 2 to 200. And that's why it's a chain and can be broken, because every second a new block gets added, every X time, and it's not really second, but a new block gets added. And if you want to override the chain, you have to be so much faster than the actual chain and convince everybody else that you're right. It's complex. I will get to that. But yeah, every block after the one you changed the hash changes. And to write a history, you must redo all the work since 2 to 200 faster than the rest of the word is added into it. That's basically impossible. And that's why it's immutable, because nobody can change something in the past. Nobody owns the ledger, but everybody has a copy. A node is just a computer that keeps the full history of the chain from block 1 to today. Today we are like 137 million, I don't know, something. And they have the local copy of the chain. Anyone can join. Anyone can download a full copy of all the transaction in history of Bitcoin since 2008. There is no application required. There's no whitelist. There's no KYC. There's no need to say, hey, I'm Alessandro, I come from Torino, and this is me doing a copy of the blockchain. You just download and sync, and you are in the network. You don't even need to download that, but you can just go on website like Block Scout, where you can actually check every single minute of what happened in the history. You just do not trust, you validate it. Everybody can receive and validate. It's an important thing. Why did I say that Chain is just a database, an immutable, distributed database where reading is free at best effort. Everybody, if I give you my address, you can go and check what's my wallet balance, how many Shiba Inu I have today. It's free at best effort. But if I want to send my Shiba Inu to someone else in the chat, I have to pay a little fee. That's called the gas cost. So reading is free, writing requires a little amount of money. The point is not the code. You can run that code literally anywhere. But the point is that thousands of different strangers do not trust each other, run the same code, and agree that I want to send the money to somebody on the chat. Okay, so we are 30,000 right now. Everybody runs his own network, a node. I propose that I want to send this money to someone else, and everybody agrees without talking to each other and without agreeing. It's called the Byzantine problem. It's a fantastic thing for those of you who are really nerds and want to read about that. Go, and there are so many YouTube tutorials about that. Really nice. There's a question. I had to wait 48 days to get 1/3 of my allowance back when I was in school because of a wrong debit in my account. Yeah, so somebody, April, was talking about waiting 48 days to get 1/3 of the allowance back. Yes, that's a real problem. If that was on chain, you could have seen in few seconds that you get that. But we'll get there. Who is debited with that cost gas money? Whoever wants to propose a transaction. There it is, just on time. So I want to send, so Elias, if I pronounce it correctly, is the last one asking who is debited that cost, who pays the gas cost. I do, because I am proposing a transaction. What is a transaction? It's an immutable set of operations that happen atomically. So there is no either all of them or none of them, right? That's a single transaction. So for example, I have $10 on chain and I want to send $10 to Elias. So my address, 0xabc, Elias address, 0xdef, and the amount is 10. In order to do that, I pay some gas that is credited to the network. And I'm doing a transaction. I put inside, you see, this is the transaction. This is from to Elias. Value in this case is 0, can be $10, for example. The nonce is just a way to avoid repetitions, really complex, but okay. The gas, it's 21,000 Wei. So 21,000 Wei, a Wei is 1 to times 10 to the power of the 18th Ethereum, right? So 1 Ethereum is 1 with 18 zeros, and you pay 21,000. So really, really, really small. It's cent, less than a cent. Why do I have to pay gas? Because I have to pay for the work that the validator node are doing, verifying that my transaction is correctly and adding it to the transaction. A set of transaction makes a block gets added to the chain. So nodes get paid from users who are proposing transactions. Complex, I know. But sending money from person X to person Y is just a set of hexadecimal chars, and those. So sending money means doing these, which means send $10 from this address to the address, sign it with the from, my private key. We'll talk about that later, and then sending it to a pool on chain. Validator node get that transaction, add it to a block, and append it to the blockchain with the reference to the last one. And I have the full history. It's complex, I know. The point is that I did not have to create any account. A public and a private key is just easy to create with a simple line of code. There is no server check. Nobody can tell you, no, you cannot send that money if you have it, of course. And everybody can read directly that I did send that money. I've been saying a lot about private key, public key, and addresses. Small Cryptography side. So learning about Web3 is a lot about game theory, about cryptography, about statistics, about finance, and then code. So that's why it's a bit hard to understand, because you might know a lot about one but nothing about the other. So for the cryptography side, a private key is a random 256-bit number, X, always X, and that's it, nothing else. The public key is actually the point on a curve, on a dimensional curve, is derived by multiplying your private key by a fixed point on a some elliptic curve that is different from Ethereum and Solana, blah, blah, blah. But you generate a private key. The public key is derived from that, and then combined, they produce an address. The address is public. You can share it freely. You do not share the private key. If you share the private key, you're giving access to external user to your money. Okay? Private key, do not share. Public key, no need. Address, you can share. So if Elias wants to send me back these $10 that I sent him before, I will give him my address, and he will sign with his address and his private key that he wants to send me back $10. Okay? You can think about the address as your IBAN. Nobody can take anything just by knowing it. Do not share the private key or the seed phrase. We'll talk about that later, because you give control of your password. It's like giving somebody your password to log in on your bank account so they can steal your money. Now, somebody might say, oh, then there's a vulnerability here. I could just generate a gazillion keys, and then at some point I will hit one that already has money. I'm rich. Actually, you can generate as many as you want, but there are 10 to the power of 77 possible private keys. And there are 10 to the power of 80 atoms in the universe. So just to give you an idea. There are 10 to the power of 42 possible addresses. There are roughly 200 million addresses with a balance on-chain on live. So you get one address with real money once every 7 to the power 7 times 10 to the power 33. I think it's written 33 chances. So if all 8 billion of us generated 1 billion keys per second each, the expected wait for the first hit of any funded account is around 2,000 times the age of the universe. It's so much. That just says it's basically impossible. People do steal keys. There are some hacks that happened recently on chain. If you lose your private key, you lost your money. Not your keys, not your wallet. That's what we say. The point is that in each of them, the cryptography held. What broke was in the middle between the random number generator, the seed phrase generator, the entropy, whatever, or the human. Or if you click on a website and say, hey, sign this to access, and then you sign, and you just lost your private key. So be careful out there. Let's talk about the consensus, the proof of work. So how do thousands of different strangers agree on who goes next? What's the next transaction on a block? So a node gets a bunch of transactions, wrap them in a node, and then sends it to the chain. And then everybody, all the nodes, have to agree on what's the next node. Proposing a block is extremely expensive. Checking, it's free. What's that? It's called proof of work. So you have to show that you have done some work, and that work is just that you have to hunt for a number that makes the block hash start with this long run of zeros. So for example, the one you have in the number 1. There's no clever method. You have to brute force. You have to guess trillion of times per second. You need so much energy to compute that. It's extremely hard to find, but it's extremely easy to check, because you just count the numbers and then you just find the data center. It's like 1 millisecond work of the CPU. The whole asymmetry that it's extremely hard to calculate, but it's extremely easy to verify. It's what makes the chain accountable. Why would you do that? Because if you can propose a node, you get the reward. The chain pays you 3.125 BTC every 10 minutes plus the gas fees. So it's a lot of money. It's $180,000 right now to propose a block. And that happens every 10 minutes. But back in the days, back in 2015, you could create a chain, not create a chain, but you could validate a block with your own computer. Right now, it takes a server farm to be as fast as you can. So attacking a chain means finding those numbers faster. So you go back to a block, you change that block, and you have to rewrite everything. And rewriting means finding this puzzle for all the nodes in between while the chain keeps going. It's just mathematically and economically not viable. The security is that you could do that, but it's totally unprofitable. And the second you break the chain, Bitcoin goes to zero because nobody trusts Bitcoin anymore. What's the problem of proof of work? Is that you have to use so much power. So Ethereum invented the proof of stake. Stake means I am putting some money, and that money is saying, hey, trust me, I will behave correctly. But if you find that I have not been behaving correctly, you can slash that. So you can take that away. So I'm basically putting a lot of money as an insurance that I will be behaving. If I don't behave, people can cut it, and I would be losing so much money. And it's not economically viable. It's just like so much money that my incentives are the chain incentives to behave correctly. And that's why on-chain work, Web3 work, is a lot about game theory and agreeing that something is beneficial for both. You can read more about that, but it's not so complicated. But what happens when immutability is compromised? So the 51% attack, somebody gains 51% of the nodes available on the market. So they can arbitrarily decide, yes, this is a good block. No, this is not a good block. And they can revert that. But getting to the 51% requires so much money because you need to agree to buy so many servers and so many data points that, economically speaking, it requires huge amount of money. And the second that somebody notices that Bitcoin suffered a 51% attack, Bitcoin is worth zero. So you have spent gazillion of money to have zero. So that's why nobody has ever done that. I will not go too deep in these slides because I understand it's complex. So you can come back later. We talked about verifiability. What's the block explorer? It's a tool, it's a website online that you can just search any addresses or any transaction hash and see what happened. So just go to Etherscan, paste any addresses, or just click somewhere, and you will see what happens. Learning to read the block scan is a huge thing for an intern because your boss could ask you to check what happened here and there. And everything is public, and you can actually track. If you go, like there was an attack a couple of weeks ago on Ostium, which is a perp tax. Ostium, you can actually see that some funds were withdrawn, then they were sent to other addresses, that they were sent to other addresses, and you can actually follow the money and who is in charge of what. But the addresses does not have a person, so police cannot go and just steal and like put in jail, right? Let's see if you got the gist, but you will have the slides, so you can come back later. What makes rewriting an old block practically impossible? The law, a layer hash, so that all of them break, the fact that they're encrypted, or only the foundation has write access. So only somebody has write access. The response is B. You may safely share. Your seed phrase, no. Your private key, no. Your address, yes. All of them, no. If you lose your keys or somebody steals them, they have access to your funds. They can sign on your behalf. The money is theirs. And in proof of stake, what stops a validator from cheating? A license, their own state capital, electricity cost, or a court order. Rewriting a node block is practically impossible because every later block contains a hash of it. So all of them break. You may share your address, as we said, and in proof of stake, the own state capital gets slashed, so you lose money. So it's not in your incentive to do that. Let's go to something a bit easier. Probably you will have to go through, if you really want to go deeper, you will have to go through the slides again and again and again and ask AI. It's okay, it's normal. It takes some time to learn how because you get to byte level, and byte level is by definition complex. So Ethereum exists because Bitcoin solved the money problem, but it did not solve everything else. So Bitcoin has limits. There's one block every 10 minutes with a hard size cap. So you cannot write more than X bytes every 10 minutes. So who gets to go when two people are betting for that? Who pays more? It's very energy intensive by design. It's not a Turing complete language, so you can just do very few things. You cannot do what you expect to do with a programming language. You can move value, but you cannot express a condition, a deadline, a rule. In 2013, Vitalik said, what if the chain could run any program, not just payment stuff? He was 19. Ethereum raised 20 million in Bitcoin and launched in 2015, the first real IPO. ICO, sorry, not IPO. Bitcoin is the digital gold. Ethereum is closer to a global computer that anybody can deploy on and nobody can switch off. The EVM, the Ethereum Virtual Machine, is actually an operating system, like Windows, macOS, and Linux. But the same program can run on thousands of machines at once, and no company owns the App Store. Vocabulary. We talk about smart contracts, but a smart contract is so smart and it's not a contract. It's just a program. It's just a set of lines of code that lives on chain at a certain address. Once deployed, everybody can run on that, and it runs and will run always in the same way. That's one of the most difficult things for developers. You have to design waterfall because you have to decide in the beginning what you have to work on, and when you deploy that, you're done. You cannot do any changes. Nobody can stop it. Nobody can change it. Anybody can read it, and anyone can call it, right? On chain, the integration to a protocol is permissionless. If I want to run Binance on my own server to my own users, I have to go to Binance and say, hey, Binance, can I work with you? Can you? I want to deploy an app that just runs Binance. I cannot. So Binance has to say yes. On chain, if you deploy a smart contract, literally anybody can build a front end to operate on that, and you cannot stop that in any ways. Example, your flight is delayed. You paid for the delay insurance because the meeting really was important. The flight is, of course, late. What happens? You notice that the flight is late. You have to find the policy back. You have to file a claim. You have to upload the proof, even though it's late. It's quite clear. Then some humans or some machines have to review that. They get a decision, and then you wait for the transfer. Weeks, as we were mentioning in the chat earlier. Everyone is doing their job. The delay is not about incompetence, it's just about the rules. On chain, with a smart contract, the insurer deploys the contract. You just go and buy the policy the same way you're doing today. And then an oracle, which is a bridge between the real world and the chain cannot do HTTP calls. They cannot check internet. A chain is just a program in its own box. It cannot read anything from the outside. So an oracle reports that the landing is late. The payout is just automatically done. Like you get down, you switch off your airplane mode, you see you have credited the amount of money. That's it. It's not just the transaction fee saved. It's the entire tool and apparatus that claims handling, adjustation, dispute, reconciliation, blah, blah, blah. It's not necessary because you set the rules once and you have done the smart contract. The second about the step 3. A chain knows everything that is happening on chain, but nothing else about the world. A blockchain cannot look out the window. Every time you need the fact about reality, somebody has to say that was true, that was false. Imagine, everybody probably knows Polymarket, right? One was quite famous in the last few weeks. It's Polymarket runs on chain on EIP 1155, which is we'll talk about that later. But knowing that Trump won the election, it's not possible for a chain. The chain has to say, yes, this address is an oracle. So he knows about the outside, and he's able to post on chain that Trump won the election. Okay, that's important. The black box is probably, it's one of the things that you always get like, but coins have prices. Why? The Bitcoin price is not on chain. It's off chain. It's just a bunch of liquidation providers, a bunch of people exchange Bitcoins that gives the value. In fact, if you go to CoinGecko, Coinbase, and like 5 different places, Bitcoin price is slightly different, because the Bitcoin price is actually a median, very complex median of so many places where Bitcoin price is traded. This is very complex to understand. But the point is, prices and truth outside the chain world have to be informed by somebody. Doesn't mean that verification is true. So a blockchain cannot verify that Trump actually won the elections. And that's one of the most famous vector attack, which what happened to Ostium a couple of weeks ago, or what happened to Hyperliquid with Jelly Kelly. I don't know. If you don't know, just forget about that. Now, Bitcoin, 10 minutes, not programmable. Ethereum, the block time is so much faster. With proof of stake, it's way cheaper to send money and to write on chain. But why EVM is so important? Because there are so many standards. The standard's not the cryptography, but it's an agreement that every developer agrees on when they deploy a token. And every token exposes the same functions. So everybody can just go to, probably you guys can name 5 tokens, right? Let's say Ethereum, Shiba Inu, because I talked about that. Doge was very famous. Solana is a token, and I don't know. You can. I think Hype is something that you might know if you are in the fields, but or XRP, or like you just go on any trading app and you see millions of them. They are all tokens. They are all adherent to the same contract, but not smart contract, like same interface. If somebody knows about code and can think about the Java interface, Solidity interface are really similar. They define the methods that have to be exposed, but they don't define the body. So you can override the body. Nice. Somebody knows about Hype in the chat. So ERC is Ethereum Release Candidate 20. So Ethereum is code, right? The chain is actually code. When, right, Base, somebody is talking about Base on chat, and Binance chain. When somebody wants to edit the code that runs on Ethereum, they do an Ethereum improvement proposal. Like, for example, EIP 20 was the standard for tokens. Then the foundation checks that. It's a very long process, and at some point they do the code, they do a PR, and they merge it and then deploy. And then ERC20 is Ethereum Release Candidate 20. It's very common to call a token with ERC20, an NFT ERC721, multiple token and multiple NFT ERC1155. Paying with any ERC20 7702. Like at some point you just get them, and signatures 712. It's just like when you are in the field, you know. But every ERC20 token exposes these kind of functions. So for example, what's the total supply of Hype? What's the total supply? Bitcoin has 21 million. The total supply of Bitcoin is just 21 million. You cannot mint more. The total supply of Ethereum is unlimited. What's the balance of whoever, Harris, Allen, whoever you can, your friend there? What's their address, what's their balance. That's why balance on chain. Or you can transfer. I transfer to the address this amount, send some address. Or you can approve. So a contract can spend money on your behalf. So ERC20 are fungible tokens. So it's like dollars. Every coin, $1 is the same. You can have one or the other. It's always worth $1. NFTs are ERC721. So NFTs are unique non-fungible tokens. Like, for example, an image. It's just that image is different from another image, right? And they were used a lot in 2020, 2021. The NFT season was a lot. 1155 is what I was mentioning, both at once. And then there are so many others. Hold on, important stuff. A stable coin is just an ERC20, so a normal token that just holds the value of 1 because it has a backup. USDC, USDT, EURC, USDG now, and all the others, they are just stable coins. What does Tether, which is the company behind USDT, do? The people want to buy $20 of USDT. So they put $20 with the non-ramp. Tether gets those $20. They invest it in somewhere, and they release you 20 USDT. Then you pay, I don't know, a pizza with those 20 USDT. Somebody brings you a pizza, and then you pay with 20 USDT. Then the pizza guy goes to Tether and says, hey, I have these 20 USDT. Can you give me back my $20? And Tether gives him back the $20. But Tether has several billion or trillion of dollars like that. And they invest it in something really easy, like the public debt of USA. And that's all they do. They make so much money with that because they have some cash. That's just finance. You have cash, you invest it, you get an APY, and then you have a return. But stablecoin is the way you pay on chain on USDC or USDT or Euro or US-based prices. Because if something costs 1 Bitcoin, then today it costs 65, tomorrow it costs 68, and in 1 week it costs 60K. If it costs 50K, it just costs 50K. So it's easier. In the beginning, everything was Bitcoin-based. Now everything is USDC-based. I have already explained about EIPs, like how does Ethereum change? Everyone can propose, and there's no product manager, no board, no shareholder. There is a list of people that can vote on like everybody can suggest, then a bunch of people can say yes or no, do questions, blah, blah, blah. It takes a lot of time to get something approved. It doesn't cost anything to update. It's open source by definition. There are 4 EIPs that will change your experience once you start working on chain. The predictable fees, the blobs, the reason why L2s are cheap. So the L1, Ethereum is an L1, so it's a layer 1. Writing on Ethereum used to be quite expensive up until 2022, before the merge, what we discussed before. So what people did is create a chain that once every, 100 blocks, gets everything, gets the blob, a hash, and then puts it on the L1. That's why it's called L2. Layer 2, layer 1. Layer 2 settle on the L1. But with 48, 44, and in 2024, the blobs it's what made the L2 so cheap. So you can write, for example, Arbitrum is an L2 that is extremely cheap if you want to write that. 4337 is about smart wallets. So you can pay gas. So somebody can pay gas on your behalf. I was sending the $10 before. I need to have some little gas, which is in Ethereum. Somebody can pay it for me, and then I can pay it back, or just a gift. Like, as a developer, you can build products on top that create value. Or 7702. So when I'm sending the $10, I can get a small slice of that and go as gas payment. So in ERC20 can be a gas payment. You will read more about this. It's quite complex. But what you actually pay on Ethereum right now is below 1 cent, up to 3 cents, right? Transferring an USDC on Base, which is an Ethereum L2, costs 2 cents, and from $24, what an L2 transaction costs back in 2022. For remittance, that's actually a great way of people actually use it. Like maybe you have some relatives who work in the US and send back money home. That's a great use case for crypto, for example, because it's so much cheaper, but it requires a bit more responsibility on using that. Let's skip that. We talked about the oracle, that is whatever brings on-chain word data. We talked about standards like ERC20 that are the way every wallet and app can support any token without any custom integration. And let's remove AP 4844. It's something else. So answers, yeah, I already said the answers during. What I would like you to learn today. Stablecoins. We talked about stablecoins a little bit earlier. USDC, USDT, EURC, USDG, and every coin in a country already has its own representative on chain. You can go, I think, pretty much everywhere in the world and have their coin. I was in Albania a few weeks ago and I was searching, and yes, there is a stable coin of the Albania coin. Of course, USDC and USDT are so much more powerful, they're gigantic. The important part is the stable coin is a token that tracks a currency one for one. So I have one USDC. That means that USDC owners, called Circle, they have $1. Okay, and it's important that this is backed up, because if I have 100 USDC and Circle only has 10, if everybody wants to withdraw, then Circle goes bankrupt and it's not solvent. So it's important to keep this balance. But just to give you some numbers, there are over 300 billion stablecoin supplied on chain today on all the chains. USDT from Tether is holding the 61% of share, and the second one is USDC from Circle. There are $1.79 trillion moved per month in June. It's a lot of money. So much money moves already on chain. And learning how things move, let me just close Telegram because I got messages. Learning how stablecoins move and how to get paid in stablecoins immediately unblocks you so many markets that were unreachable. Imagine you are a freelance from India and a client from Brazil wants to pay you. How do they pay you? You charge in which currency, and then they have to change, or they just go to the bank and pay 5% more to send you your currency. You just go USDC and you can just come back with basically zero fees. Those are stablecoins, which is absolutely a product market fit thing, because numbers, you can see the numbers. Exactly. Sending $200 to your family in another country, if you go through a bank, quite a lot of time you get up to 15% of fees and 1 to 5 business days. And banks are already rich enough. You don't need to give them more money. You do a USDC send on an L2 on an app on a Sunday on your phone. It takes 2 seconds. It takes 2 cents, and they have the money. This is the whole thing about chain. Usually, I mean, back in the days when I used to talk about chain to students, I used to explain like tracking, NFTs, and the supply chain. There are so many other use cases, but they are so small because they are so expensive, and the actual win is not so much. The chain is a piece of infrastructure that is so connected to the finance world. And it's the real place where there's a product market fit on chain. Of course, if you ask an AI, why would I need to learn blockchain? They will say so many things, but finance stuff is the number one. And since everybody needs money to live, it's where Visa and MasterCard have been making millions, basically. Up until a few years ago, the crypto world was just a bunch of retards on Twitter enjoying life and buying Lamborghinis. And I mean, the investors were buying Lamborghinis. Builders, there are some builders who made quite a lot of money, but not so many. And then a few years ago, the reason appeared also for the big players. So Stripe built its own chain. Visa and MasterCard are doing settlements live. JP Morgan is already doing a public chain bank. And Blackbox is just selling treasuries, US treasuries, and has a market of 2.67 billion on chain. So it's a lot of money. You do not need to want to work at a crypto company for this to be relevant. The companies you already want, they're already hiring for it. And usually, more and more, I see some crypto knowledge required. And it's not so hard to understand. It just takes a little bit of, oh, wow, where am I? So what's in it for you? One, getting paid. Remote work across borders, the India, Brazil we were talking about. Freelancing and side income. You don't need a merchant account. You don't need a minimum volume. You do not need to pay a monthly fee to some Fiverr or whatever platform you're using. You can just be paid for, of course, being found is something else, but for payments, you just need an address. That's it. And it's also a great tool for living where money is unstable. Claude added Turkey and Venezuela as examples. No pun intended, no offense for anyone, but there are so many places in the world right now from a geopolitical point of view that are unstable. If inflation is eating alive your savings, then putting your money on chain on USDC can be a great move, because the inflation of USD is so much less. This is not a financial advice. Do not do it unless you really know what you're doing. Do not just say because Alessandro someday said that. Just do your research. It's just a way for you. One thing I love about chain is that I can build a program on Solana, for example, which is an alternative to Ethereum, that allows anyone in the world to buy Standard & Poor's 500 shares, because I am a regulated institution and you pay me to buy S&P. And then when you sell it, you get back. That means that whoever in the world, no matter how poor their country is, no matter how sanctioned their country is, no matter what KYC, nothing, you can just buy and have access to some financial instruments that are usually reserved for people that have a strong passport. And that's not fair. So whatever your passport is, wherever you come from, you can buy S&P 500. Or you can buy, I don't know, I've just read before jumping in the call that SpaceX is back over IPO. You can buy SpaceX. You can also trade perpetuals on SPX. You can bet on the SPX price, which is something that is about democracy and giving the same opportunities to everyone. That's why I like very much this FlyRank thing. But that's philosophical, so just scratch that. On-ramps and off-ramps. And the tax man. Yeah, there are taxes on crypto. So we talked that crypto is just this black box, right? There are USDCs, but somebody owns the regulatory side of USDC, which is Circle. So when you give $10 to Circle, they mint you 10 USDC on your account, right? So this is called on-ramping from euro, dollars, yen, pounds, whatever, to tokens. And off-ramping is from tokens to your stable, your coin, whatever you have. This is sometimes regulated and KYC. So sometimes you need anti-money laundering. You need to know your customer, you know your business. So a tool that I always use is Transact. Another one is MoonPay. If you need money on chain, that's a good way. But you can always build a wallet and then do some job for somebody, and then they pay you 20 USDC directly on chain. And then at that point, you don't need KYC. Be careful, because entering and exiting chain usually is where the taxman says, hey, this is an untaxed income. You should pay taxes on that. At least I know for a fact that in Europe it's very much so. I don't know about everywhere. I don't like taxes. Nobody does, but it's really boring for me, so I just don't check it. Usually what happens is that you have a commission on the on-ramping and off-ramping. especially if your the coin you start from is not so powerful. That's a problem. I know it's not being fixed yet. If you have ideas how to fix it, let me know. We can build a startup together. Then the second skill is verifiability. It's a work skill. Knowing how, I imagine how many times, probably you don't know, but back in the days, a secretary was a lot of work about, can you check if that sir paid us? Can you send me the report of like how we're doing in the bank? Can you tell me what we need to pay at the end of the month? Blah, 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 blah. Recognition, recompiling, rechecking, everything, right? Auditing stuff. On chain, it's programmable. You can just write some Claude. You can just ask Claude, hey, track me, build me a tool of how the, I don't know, Shiba Inu total supply goes. Right now, how many people have Shiba Inus? Or this single asset, where did it move? That's super easy to do and super easy to find. So try to go to Blockscout and not Blockscout, Blockscan, and try to understand how things move. It's a lot of information, but just as Claude, build your own Etherscan provider, and you can just build it, and maybe you do a much better job, because usually it sucks. It requires some time, especially on the Solana side. It's really not easy to understand what happened. Then money today is just data. Somebody has to decide to move it. Programmability moves money. So you can just build code that moves money automatically. For example, payroll, you can just one day, if all your users agree, all your employees agree to be paid in USDC, you do not actually need to go to the bank system and then pay their salaries to them. But you can just click a button and then you generate the paying system, and everything flows automatically, because you can just sign via code. You can set spending limits, you can set subscription, you can split the moment of payments directly automatically. Like, it's so easy to build an automation that everybody moves money into one smart contract, and when it has enough money, you can be one stock of the S&P 500, for example. That could be like a party thing to do. Then, thanks to AI, I don't know if you ever heard about the HTTP code 402. So HTTP protocol is what moves internet. So every request response cycle has a status code. So 200 correct, 201 okay, 404 not found, 401 unauthorized, 402 was payment required. Nobody ever used it because an HTTP call was very complex to do 402. Right now with agents, servers can just respond with 402, get paid in stable coins, and come back. Last week, Cloudflare just announced Cloudflare wallets, which is exactly this. So you charge Cloudflare, you add some money to your Cloudflare, and then Cloudflare can spawn agents that just go around the web and check on things. This is a great way, for example, for artists and newspapers and articles to be paid per read. So you can just read it if you pay 0.01, and that just avoids the ads and the cookie section and all that stuff. That's a nightmare. And you can just pay by that. So it's coming back quite a lot. And it's already doing 28K a day, this 402 slide from Cloudflare, I think I found it. Finance you can inspect, aka some tools that you probably heard of, but you have no idea how they work until today. Aave is a collateralized lending platform. Let's say that I have 10 Bitcoin, right? I bought them today Bitcoin is around $65K. I bought Bitcoin when it was at 30, right? So I'm already doing 2x. I'm happy. But I believe in Bitcoin so much that I think it will go back to 100. Like the all-time high for Bitcoin is 120 something. I'm so sure it will go back, but I need money. So I can go to Aave, I can deposit my 10 Bitcoin, and they can say, hey, can somebody lend me, I don't know, $30,000 because it's worth, now right now I have 10 Bitcoin, so it's 55. So I have 650K. I need 200K, for example. Then people can just lend me money. I will pay a small interest on that, and then I will repay it back. Everything on Aave, and if everything is decentralized, there's no bank, there's no yes you can, no you cannot. The only thing that works is that I have 10 Bitcoin as collateral, and that's my trust. That's my guarantee that I will return money. If I don't return money, automatically Aave can steal a little slice of my BTC and pay to the lender, right? No bank, no mortgage, no checking, no KYC, nothing. It just, and you do, why do you do that? Because you do not want to sell your BTC, because you think it will go even higher. So you are making your money work twice, because it's accruing value because Bitcoin is going up in your belief, and then you get some money in return, and you can keep building on that. And then you can stack that as many times as you want. Be careful, because that's exactly how the 2007 crisis started. Probably you were all very young and you don't remember, but the subprime issue was exactly a refinancing of the debt so many times. And Aave is so big, it has almost 15 billion deposited and 11 billion actually currently borrowed. Go check Aave. The source code of Aave is just Solidity, which is the Ethereum virtual machine code, and it's all open source. You can literally go and read and try and deposit $5 and start earning interest on that. So, for example, my economy is not so strong, my country economy. Inflation is at 10%. So I get my salary. One thing I can do is just take $100 from that, deposit into Aave, and start lending this money. It produces an APR of, I don't know, 4%, 5%, 3%, I don't know. It's just a way to be exposed to the secondary borrowing and lending market on a coin that is not yours. That's democracy in my book. But Aave, April 2026, there was a hack. The code was perfect, but a breach, so similar to an oracle, was exploited. So somebody forged a message that you can read more, you will have these slides, but basically somebody made Aave believe that what they were offering as collateral was very worth, but it was not. So the code was perfect, but there was a way in the middle that somebody got hacked in the middle, and then things happen. It's not that DeFi is unsafe, but the composability and so many protocols, and especially now with Fable and all the AI stuff, the number of hacks is growing a lot. But this is public, so people can verify that. I invite you to follow. You can just check on Twitter. There are so many security engineers on chain, and you can just follow how they do the analysis. It's awesome. The point is that on chain it's verifiable, so people can follow that. How many times does it happen on a normal bank and they just don't tell you, and it's just paid back by insurance? Spoiler, a lot. Hyperliquid is exactly where I work. It's not my company. I work for a company that works for Hyperliquid, doing stuff on Hyperliquid. Futures, so leverage trading. I have $1, I borrow $9, I trade for $10, so leverage 10x. If for example, I go long on Bitcoin, 10x. That means I think that Bitcoin will go up. I put $1, I borrow 9, I pay interest on the 9, but if my profit and loss statement goes up, then I get to keep it, minus the interest I am paying. But if it goes down, then I lose the dollar. It's a very, very, very awesome way of trading, but extremely dangerous. So try Hyperliquid, try to see how it works, leverage trading. And I mean, if you guys are into math and to financial, quant is the job that does all this financial engineering. They are paid so much, like so much. And there is a very much shortage from that. So if you like math and you are willing to spend a lot of time learning and you're really good at math, try it for it. But Hyperliquid is the first on-chain perpetual decentralized exchange. I'm short on BTC from 65K, says July. Great, well done. I haven't followed today, so I don't know how it's going. But if you think that Bitcoin is going down, that's a great way. You could do some money. Of course, be careful, not a financial advice. You could lose your money. So right now, if you are short and Bitcoin goes up, you could lose all your money. Experience, I've done that. On Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid is the first place where a decentralized order book was deployed on chain. Right now, the last 30 days, there was 200 billion of perpetual volume. They are over the billion of annualized fees, and they host 40% of all the on-chain perps market. They are basically them, Bybit and Binance. And they are scaling pretty fast. And Hyperliquid, for example, is not legal right now in the US. There are rumors because leveraged futures trading is not legal in the US. So people you just use a VPN, spoiler. But also there are so many people who are trying to be actually whitelisted to trade on Hyperliquid. And there is a great work right now to legalize this. But why Hyperliquid is so famous? Because in November 2024, 31% of its total supply, called Hype, it was over 1.6 billion, was given as an airdrop to people who had used it, and they had no venture capital. So I personally know hundreds of people that got rich from this. So they were trading, they were doing volume, they were helping Hyperliquid to grow. Hyperliquid deployed his own chain, started Hype, and then they just gave it away for free. That's also another way that you can that's called farming. So finding protocols that are in a very good trajectory. For example, I'm just telling you two to try. One is variational and the other one is extended. They are already quite big, they are already quite famous, and they are perpetual dexes as well. And you can actually go and see how it works. They are pre-IPO, so they don't have a token yet. At some point, they will launch a token, and they will airdrop that token to some users. Probably, they said they will, but check their Twitter. But also, Hyperliquid is so big, Hyperliquid was attacked. In March 2025, the Jelly attack. So there was a community liquidity vault trapped with that pump and dump the price by 400%. So there was gigantic problem. October 2025, I don't know if you were on chain, if you were trading on that day, but that day there was like 19 billion lost on that day because of so many liquidations. Liquidation is a thing where your collateral is not enough to cover your losses. And then you have PopCat. So 3 million across 19 wallets moved. So on chain, there is a risk. So I don't want to sell you, on Web3, everything is so shiny and so blue. There are scams, there are attacks, and sometimes people manage to steal funds. Polymarket. Polymarket and Calci are probably the two best, most known trading platform for what's the name? Prediction markets. So for example, next US election, you think Trump will win again? Yes. It says 0.6%. So you have 60% of the chances. The market says that there are 60% of chances that Trump will win again. If Trump loses, you will lose your money. If Trump wins, you will get $1, right? So you buy at 0.6 and you get $1. There is also a secondary market. So, for example, Trump says, yes, I will go to the next one. And then some polls come out for some reason and then say, Trump is winning right now. The price goes so much up because people are saying, yes, it will buy. So you can buy at 0.6 and sell at 0.8. So the payoff is always one. Polymarket is blocked in quite a lot of countries because it's illegal betting. So it's betting. So be careful about that. There are so many rules about betting, so many risks connected with health. So be careful about that. But there are 3.7 billion traded on the 2024 US presidential market. Polymarket is valued at 20 billion. There was a few months ago, they went live on the New York Stock Exchange, and in Times Square, everything was about Polymarket. So Intercontinental Exchange invested into Polymarket. Polymarket was one of the first to get the CFTC approval in US. So it will be soon available in US. Market was, of course, there are attacks. So the market was a market. Will Ukraine agree to the Trump mineral deal before April? Again, this is an oracle, a vote. So some people said yes. Somebody owned enough votes to say yes, even if it was no, or the other way around. But there were people who won. Actually, that happened yes, and people with yes did not get the money because on chain the oracle said no. That was an error. That was a mistake. We cannot go back there. So that was a problem, a flaw not in the code, but there was an attack, 51% attack on the vote for the oracle. Then, so these are three different disasters of the so many things that happened. The point is that everything, the vulnerable point is always from off-chain to on-chain, because chain does not have a way to read from the outside. The verifiability is real, but it stops at the edge of the system. You cannot verify outside chain. I was very, very torn if adding these. How do people lose money on chain? So you are far more likely to lose money from someone who talks to you than somebody who breaks the code, because there were so many hacks, like 1 billion just in the first half of 2026, and 17 billion was lost to scams in 2025. And the scam payment is on average $2,000. The biggest hack of 2025 was not a broken blockchain, but Bybit lost 1.5 billion because a developer machine was compromised, and some JavaScript injection prepared a transaction on a multisig that just was sending money out. And that's one of the things of working on chain. You get to be paranoid. You have to be paranoid. That's another reason why I'm not telling you my nickname on chain. I'm not giving you my GitHub. I'm not giving you the name of the product I'm working on, because I could be, if this gets recorded and published online, that could be recorded and I could be targeted. In France last year, there were people kidnapped and with guns in their head, give me your private key or I kill you. There's no bank, there's no backup. So it's important to check. How many slides do I have? 77. We are at 61. Great. So we are on time. The job market. Job market. I know you guys know the job market sucks. AI has been killing a million of different jobs places together, but the composition shifted away in a way to favor people who are not developers. So there are so many less places for developers. There are so many more for compliance and legal, so many more for stablecoin and payments, and AI is necessary. So there are fewer jobs, but the surviving ones move from speculating to regulated payment infrastructure. And let me just say something out of my personal pocket and out of my experience right now. So what's happening is that, so in 2015, when I started working, I got my bachelor in 2015. I started working and I had zero experience, and I had recruiters pinging me on LinkedIn, hey, can you please join here? We're going to give you a welcome gift, right? And good payment, not so good payments, but good enough to survive. And it was great back in the days because it was AI. Right now, and there was a meme back in the days of job offers asking for a backend, a frontend, a DevOps, a security, whatever else. And people were saying, you're not looking for a person. You are looking for a whole tech department. With AI, what's happening right now is that I am the tech department of my own company. Because with Claude and the right number of agents used in the correct way, and like the thing, for example, I'm doing, but you guys probably know more about this than me. If I have a task, I delegate it to Claude, and then I ask to Sol to review that, and then Copilot with Kimi, and 3 different models doing an adversarial review, and then one of them understanding how the best way to do that, and then I check some things, and then it just works, and then I know how to deploy. I have done the front end, I have done the back end, I have done the security, I have done everything. So what's happening right now is that the barrier to enter a computer science job is so high because you have to know so many things. But you have AI, so you can get to know things so much faster. Back in the days when I didn't know why my server was failing with a RAM issue, I had to Google that and hope that somebody already had that issue. Right now, you just ask Claude and you get a solution pretty fast. The thing I'm seeing in the new generation is that it's a generalization, so really take it with a pinch of salt. But what I see is so many people are not retaining what they learn. So every time you learn something new, try to ask Claude to explain to you why something is happening in that way. And there are some skills that I've been using because I'm doing that myself, because I don't think that I know EAP 4884 by heart. I've never read that completely because it's a technical article, super hard. But every time I prompt something, I ask what's important that I remember about that? What do I need to learn? And that's probably a way to over time accrue and grow real knowledge and knowing where to move in a whole tech department or a whole marketing department. I don't know about a finance department, blah blah blah. Yeah, sorry for the parentheses. It was just, we can talk about that more later. But the point is that in order to work on chain and create products, you do not have to be a developer anymore. A personal example, we are going to launch a product. It's a perpetual betting market on Robinhood chain. It's really interesting. And we are 4 co-founders. The least technical 2 have done a mathematical paper, and they have been iterating on Claude and asking to backtest it. And then they came to me with, we have already done the whole research. You just have to make it work perfectly on chain, off chain, and all the integration, front and back and graph, blah, 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 blah. But everything else was already done. So they were already at over 80%, and they did not even know that they're working on that. In a week, they pulled out something absolutely incredible. So knowing what to build and what are the issues and where money flows, and that knowledge is actually what's the scarce part right now and what can bring you some places. Because when you have an idea of something that is missing, then realizing that is really easy right now. It's software, it's hardware, it's whatever you want, became very easy. The point to deploy on chain is that you do not have any infrastructure cost. If you want to build something that runs off chain, you need a server, you need a load balancer, you need a CDN, you need blah, 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 blah. With chain, you just need a front end that can be hosted on a free GitHub pages page, and then you just talk on chain. Probably need a few things in the middle, but it's extremely cheap to build on chain. And you have already fixed all the issues that you could have about money. Imagine, I mean, now today it's easier because you have Stripe integration, but when I started, Stripe was not a thing. In the beginning, we had to work with money ourselves. Of course, we were delegating to somebody to deal with credit cards, but still, credit cards were passing through our systems in the real beginning. And it was a nightmare. It used to be so complex to build like all those analysis tools for finance to understand stuff. Now on chain, everything is so easy because everything works by design. And yeah, payments arrive for free. Take money on chain and you skip merchants onboarding, and that's it. You do not need the PCI integration, the KYB, the Stripe integration, blah, blah, blah. That's all gone. It's just right on chain. That's how it works. Just one thing, do get an audit. Right now, the bare minimum is AI audit, but do not go live on chain without being audited by a human, because you could get hurt a lot. There are some attacks you can follow on Twitter. There are so many crypto dev and crypto security people. The average attack right now is at a complexity that is unimaginable and very hard to defend proactively. And there are so many tools right now to do that, and so many auditors who run all those tools. So usually in our company, what we do is we set the requirements, we write the code, we test it, and then we just launch bombs against that. I am out of tokens. I have been out of tokens for days now, in 3 different max subscriptions, because I have thrown everything I had against the protocols that we wrote. And that's the bare minimum. They found so many subtle attacks that are impossible. But we will still go through a human penetration testing. Not because I'm not confident, but because humans can get something that AI doesn't, especially on security so far. So yeah, always audit your contracts. The pattern is not that AI replaces developers, is that the domain experts can now produce something that works, and developers that become the people who make it safe to ship and scalable and check mistakes and check for the dead ends. And there is I don't know if you guys know the Uncle Bob, the guy that wrote the clean code. He wrote a book recently about the history of developers, and says developers will never disappear because they are the masters of knowledge and the masters of details. So as developers, we like, what happens if on the day that we have sun time, the winter time to summertime, that we skip 1 hour, something breaks and there is a rollback for some reason in the middle. That's the kind of details that a business person can never understand. But if a business person explains you what he wants, then finding those little details and finding those little pesky bugs is where we thrive the most. So that's like my forecast. So what you should actually do. Tonight's homework, just go out and deploy a contract on a testnet. Right, I did not explain what testnet versus mainnet is. Testnet is just a copy of the chain where all the money is worth nothing, because there are no liquidity providers. There is no way to buy. So you can deploy the token that is called Bitcoin on a testnet. That token is not valued anything, but you can play with it. You can send it to your friends. You can charge back. You can build a smart contract. It's just a testing environment. That's the testnet. So you can deploy a contract and verify on a public explorer, read the supply, read the right stuff, and deploy it somewhere and store that addresses and put it on your CV. Like, I have been playing with Web3. I know how things work. I built a front end that with VM, which is a normal VM and WAGMI, the libraries, JavaScript libraries we talk with the chain. I have done that. It's a great portfolio thing, because everybody thinks, oh, chain is so complex, I have no idea. And if you can jump on an interview and explain why this works that way, how you did that, every engineer will say like, oh yeah, that's complex. I tried sometime back in the days and it's really complex. Then get fluent in a Block Explorer. Try to understand how Block Explorer works, how transactions work, how block works, why you can verify all what I said today. Like everything, you can verify that yourself. Then follow regulation. Do not be hyped about price. Do not go, to the moon. Bitcoin will go to the moon. Yes, that's interesting. And follow the regulations, because when regulations land, and if the Genius Act really comes, and in September there will be a very deep, very interesting law in the US. If everything lands on that, there will be 1,000 extra jobs. But always pair with AI, because half of crypto job now requires AI skills, because nobody writes code anymore. And of course, at the same time, learning how to write some code and understanding how the patterns work on Web3, it's great. You just don't have to remember how to do an assignment, because it doesn't make any sense right now. And then stay boring. Sorry, but all the new shiny jobs, especially if you start stay boring. I mean, understanding stablecoin settlement is extremely boring, but that gets you ahead of 85-90% of the people who have to work on that. And it's actually pretty easy, because it's okay to understand. It doesn't take so much, but so many people are not doing the effort, and all of a sudden you are applicable for other jobs. And the person with who understands stablecoin settlement is probably worth more than a person who has a meme coin portfolio of minus 95% of all the meme coins. But at the same time, pick what you like the most. If you're interested in the trading life and the quant life, go and create strategies. Like a Polymarket bot betting on the 5-minute price of BTC, it can be like huge learning experience. Well, I have done so many and not one profitable because there are fees, but like buy Bitcoin up and down and try to understand what are the different probabilities and stochastic Bayesian, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of stuff to learn, and it's fun because if you learn it correctly, you make a shitload of money. Sorry, I did not. A lot of money. Just be careful. If you start interacting with Web3 stuff on Twitter, but especially on LinkedIn, you will get a lot of fake recruiters in your inbox. Those fake recruiters will ask you to jump on a call. Then they will tell you that the call is not working. Please download Zoom from this link. Probably you've seen that. But mostly for developers, they will give you some kind of project on a GitHub repo that you download and you run it on your computer, and you will just scan for private keys and will steal your private keys. So do not ever run code that you do not fully trust on your machine, because it's so easy to sweep your private keys away. Be careful. I got like 10 of them per week, so be careful. I think it's one of the final. Did you get the gist? Yes. So what broke in Aave, Polymarket, and Hyperliquid incidents? The consensus, the cryptography, the edge, or nothing? In 2025, people lost more money to hacks, scams, gas fees, or slashing. What's currently the number 2 hiring category in crypto? Training, community management, compliance and legal, or NFT art? The answer is in 3, 2, 1. Of course, the incidents were the edges, the bridges, the oracles, the price feeds. 2025 scams were absolutely 5 times more than hacks. Sorry, I'm laughing because somebody in the chat says the PTSD is talking. Yes, exactly. So yes, I got scammed more than once. Yeah, of course. I mean, I did not say that out loud, but I got scammed. I got hacked. I had to completely wipe out computers. I had funds stolen, everything. It happens. It's just the first time it happens, and then slowly start to get, when something is too nice to be true, like for example, hey, there's a new job for you, $500 per day. You can work 2 hours per day, remote at your place, and you have to say if these NFTs are nice or not. Sorry, probably that's not true. Especially because the job market is so broken right now that if somebody is offering you too nice, then probably you just have to ask them, hey, are you a bot? Are you right? Happened to me last year, learned the hard way. Cloning repo, that's how it started. Exactly. Somebody on the chat said about cloning repos. Be careful about, especially developers. And one thing I always do is I have a computer. This is a throwaway computer that I have Ubuntu on top. I actually have Omarchi. If you want to know about Omarchi, it's a very nice Arch Linux-based distribution from DHH, who is the founder of Ruby on Rails. I use that, and I wipe it once a month, more or less. So there, I know that there is nothing about my wallets, nothing about my keys, nothing of nothing. There's not even my Cloud Code session. There, I'm like, oh yeah, go ahead, do whatever you want. So it's also a strategy to keep 2 accounts, 2 computers, especially if you really work on crypto. Having 2 computers is mandatory. Homework. Of course, no money, no card, no KYC, no real crypto. You need at least 1 hour. Do not send me. all the responses and checks because I will not be able to check on all of them, but it's just for you. I don't know, this is about Haris and Ari, if they want to evaluate these or not. It's just something that I find that getting your hands dirty is actually worth so much more than listening to me ramble for 2 hours. So you want to deploy a token and prove that it's yours. Everything happens on a testnet. It's a copy of Ethereum. You just need to create a wallet. So how do you create a wallet? For example, with MetaMask, with Rabbi, with OKX, there are so many places. You need a wallet, and you will see a seed phrase. You need to get some free test Ethereum from a faucet. A faucet is a place that gives you away a little bit of crypto. Of course, fake crypto worth nothing. You deploy a token on ERC20, and then you go on a block scout and verify it publicly and try to read and read and write on that. Okay, FlyRank says we will publish this as an assignment on our internship portal as part of our backend track. Yay, nice. So if you need anything, any help, just let me know. Step 1, brand new wallet. Go ahead, try the easiest one, MetaMask. MetaMask.io download. Be careful about that. If you Google MetaMask, there could be so many scam places that look exactly like MetaMask. So always verify the trust. The way I do things is I check. I go to Twitter, I go to the official page, and I click the link on that page. That's 99% of the time a good way to check. Just like on anything, not just crypto stuff, but that's the way I try to find things. So create a fresh wallet. If you already have one, do not reuse it. You will need the private key. You will need to export the private key and copy paste. So create another one. Remember, you create one seed phrase. One seed phrase has its 24 words that you have to copy. Copying those 24 words and storing them away. Of course, it's a throwaway thing. So if you lose it, it's fine, no problem. But if you lose your seed phrase, you lost your wallet. Create a new wallet, create a fresh one, so you're sure that it's not attached to anything. It's not attached to you. It's free. The seed phrase, do not publish it on Twitter, for example, because seed phrase and private key, they're not shared. You install it on MetaMask, but for example, one thing you could try is I create it on MetaMask and I want to import it into Rabbi, which is another wallet. That's a good way to export the private key, import. You can see that if you export the private key, you just have access to that wallet. If you export the seed phrase, you have access to all the wallets that could be generated from that seed phrase, which are infinite. Not infinite, almost. Be careful to copy paste. Be careful on the first and last transaction hashes. If you check on the hexadecimal, you always copy paste and double check. There's a lot of stuff happening. Then there's instructions to go and get some free test Ethereum. I tested them a few weeks ago and they were working. Be careful on how to get free Ethereum. Scam 100%. And Alchemy, QuickNode, and Chainlink used to offer faucet, but they require you to pay or to already have some Ethereum from mainnet. Then go to remix.ethereum.org. It's a complete Ethereum development environment running in your browser tab, which is awesome because you can just deploy stuff and talk to chain without even installing an IDE or a code editor. So you just deploy the contract. FlyRank token is ERC20. There will be a lot of buttons, a lot of things. Be careful. Be careful, but be curious. Like, why should I use an ERC20 and not 721? What's the difference? Go ahead. Then you click deploy. It builds in Solidity, which is this is Solidity. Does the language. It deploys, runs on web. You just sign it with your MetaMask. That's it. Make sure that you deploy on testnet, Sepolia testnet. Copy the contract address. That's your deliverable. Then go ahead and go to Block Scout, to Etherscan. You can activate contract verification directly on Remix. You can directly go on the verifiable node and correct it there and make sure that you can read the source code of the code, you can read the source code of your token directly on any block explorer. That means it's verified. That means everybody can read and write what it does. When you have verified it, there are it's called an ABI. It's I don't know what it stands for, but the ABI is a JSON file that says this is the function, this is the parameters, this is required, this is not required, blah blah blah, and that ABI will be needed for a front-end work. So it's like TypeScript types for those who know about that. Then, when you have done it publicly verifiable, you can just go to read contract and you check the total supply. You will see that it's, I don't know what you set, and you can try to mint some of them. Maybe you can, maybe you cannot. You added the possibility to mint. You can log in, you can log out. Try, play, go. Let me know what you find out and what's the thing that blows your mind the most. If you finish early and you like the idea, you can add your token to MetaMask. So in your MetaMask on the browser, you can see that you actually have the FlyRank token. Feel free to name it whatever you want, it's fine. Or you can have your friend in your classmate. You say, hey, what's your address? Let me send you 10 of my very nice FlyRank Alessandro token. Or you can read the contract from the Explorer, which is what I was mentioning. Or you can sign a message. You can see that you can sign today is a nice day on Ethereum and sign it and then send the hashed version to somebody and ask them to check that it was you who signed it. It's an interesting game about asymmetric cryptography. Or you can deploy an ERC-721, an NFT. And it's the same idea, but with collectibles. And then you can create your NFT and then you can send them to your peers. And then you can keep going for free. Like, go ahead and find out. If you really want, go to Aave and find their smart contract. Go to Polymarket on Polygon and find the smart contract and read them. How do you know more? Because today, I've been talking for 1 hour and 52 minutes, and probably your mind is exploding and you're super tired and super bored. So I'm sorry about that. But I try to condensate everything I know about Web3 in 2 hours. It's really hard. You probably want to know more. There are no journals. There are no scientific reviews. There are no, I don't know, blogs. Yeah, blogs, some of them, but not so many. The place to start from is crypto Twitter. Find Vitalik and try to see who he is following. And then Twitter learns very fast from you that you're interested into crypto. And then he suggested you more and more stuff. I have one personal crypto account and one work crypto account. In my work crypto account, I made sure that the recommendation system is trained that I want to know about crypto and security, computer science, and AI. Crypto, Twitter has become my main social network. And when I'm wasting time on the social network, I'm learning stuff. So I don't watch AI Slope. I don't watch, I don't know, stupid stories that are on Twitter. And making sure that your relaxed time is actually learning about something new that spawns some creativity. So I'm like, oh, maybe this is good. I could check that. Is one of the best productivity hack I had in my life. And with LinkedIn, it's a bit harder, but Twitter is really fast to learn. And then the second suggestion is do it. Try things. And then now, like last year, I did this lesson and then try it was really hard because I had to tell you, okay, you want to do an ERC-20 for this, and these are the problems. Right now, you can just go and ask Claude to build everything and to destroy, and you can just ask a million things and never gets bored. If you want long form stuff, podcasts are sometimes a good idea. Expect robotic voices, expect people who mask their own identity, expect people who do not show up. If you jump on a call with a crypto person, do not switch on the camera. It's totally normal, just anonymous. Primary sources, eIPs.ethereum.org is a really nice place to learn stuff. If you can understand 80% of every article there, it means you're really good and you are really skilled. It's really hard. There are some job boards like Web3 careers and cryptocurrencyjob.co, blah, blah, blah. There are some there. Honestly, it's a game of network. So start interacting on Twitter with other people, start learning, start asking. Be polite. Don't be those jackasses on Twitter could just say, your token is a scam, you're an idiot, when Lambo and to the moon. We're so done. We don't like that anymore. It was fun a few years ago, now we're done. And then, yeah, again, ask AI. Use AI to teach you stuff. And to one thing I've been doing is create a contract and ask it to like completely test every possible corner from a security point of view. And that's how I found out. I managed to understand, like, the Ostium hack a few weeks ago is something that we are vulnerable as well right now. And I spent so much time on the Ostium code to understand how that exactly happened. And that's how I understood the single lines of code that I had to pay attention on my side. And then it's just about, hey, Claude, you have to be really careful. What if it happens? Bah, 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 bah. Of course, I do not write the code anymore, but I have to understand where that happens. What's the kind of attack that can happen? Did you get the gist? What is a testnet, please? Verifying a contract on Explorer means what? And what if somebody from MetaMask support asks for your seed phrase to fix a bug? What do you do? So a testnet is a working copy of the network that uses worthless token, where you can try everything without paying. Verifying a contract means publishing the source and prove that machine that you deploy the bytecode. Thank you. ABI means for application binary interface. I forgot about that. And so the publishing the source means producing the API, getting the ABI. And support, ask for your seed phrase. Do not give it. Block it, a scam. Just stop. MetaMask does not help support. They don't have support. 7 things to remember. I don't know why this is not green, but okay. Off-chain, money does not move. It just records update, and everything is a different answer to whose record is the truth. Trustless does not mean that nobody's trustworthy. It just means that trusting anyone in particular is not necessary, because you can check if what it says is true or not. I wish it was true for politicians, but that does not happen. But that's another story. The real product is verifiability. Decentralization is just the way, the means, not the point. The verifiability is the point. But verifiability stops at the edge of the system. Bridges, Oracle frontends are where everything breaks. Stablecoin are the thing that a real market, that they have a real market. $200 abroad, the difference between 15% in 5 days, or 2 cents in 5 seconds. You lose money to scams 5 times more than to hacks. Nobody will ever legitimately ask for your seed phrase or private key. And being the person who can read a block explorer is already a big career edge than being the person with a portfolio of tokens. But honestly, also having a portfolio of tokens and justifying why, what, and how you did buy them. You go to Uniswap and you buy you create a liquidity pool for a new token. That's already something that is worth something. Last 1 hour 58 minutes. I'm so happy. Q&A. I have time. I can stay also 15, 20 minutes more, not a problem. You can ask me anything. There are some things I really went so fast and probably it's not so clear. Before jumping into question, I'm happy to go over in a second session and go deeper on some stuff, but I want you guys to be the one who asks me, hey, why does this work that way? Can you explain more about this, that? And not so much on broad surface, because I could talk for 20 more hours, but it's boring. It's not so useful because you did not actually try things. And you can ask AI to do that. If you ask me, it has to be something that it's really hard on AI to understand, or some guidance or some high level, which is the things I miss the most when I started. So You want to dig deeper on building smart contracts, what's the difference between Ethereum and Solana and all those high level things? Happy to go through, but first you have to do the work to ask. And yeah, I'm done. I'm tired.